Well, I just think it's not true that I could have left at any point. I couldn't do anything at any point anymore. I couldn't even think thoughts for myself anymore because I had been so programmed that, you know, the FBI was looking for the SLA. I shouldn't even try to think about rescue because they would call in psychics to find me. And that's the kind of thing that I believed.
Patty Hearst is one of those names that instantly brings up a whole era of American true crime. The Heiress taken from a Berkeley apartment, the taped messages that sounded like propaganda, the grainy bank surveillance photo, and the public fight over whether she was brainwashed or acting of her own will. Her 1974 kidnapping by the Symbionese Liberation Army became more than a crime story. It turned into a national spectacle that mixed radical politics, family power, and tabloid-level fascination, all while the country tried to understand how a 19-year-old could go from hostage to someone seen carrying a weapon. Decades later, the case still gets revived by anniversaries and new reporting, and the biggest surprise is often not what happened back then, but how unexpectedly normal parts of her life look today. So take a deep breath before you see what Patty Hearst is doing now. The night Berkeley changed.
Yeah. How were you kidnapped? What happened?
They came into my apartment with machine guns and handguns, and threw me down, blindfolded and gagged me and dragged me out of the apartment, and then shot at the neighbors but missed them. But all I could hear at that point was breaking glass and screams.
Okay. So what sort of people were on the list? Were they all rich kids?
It was more than a list. Oh, no, it was more than a list. One was Susan Ford. They had several industrial leaders that lived in the San Francisco Bay Area. And they didn't... With mine, though, they had the actual plans of the kidnapping.
On February 4th, 1974, 19-year-old UC Berkeley student Patricia Patty Hearst was abducted at gunpoint from the apartment she shared with her fiancé, Stephen Weed, by the Symbionese Liberation Army. They were a small and volatile radical group that wanted to turn her into leverage. Almost immediately, the kidnapping became a national obsession. The SLA issued demands and used Patty's famous last name as a megaphone for their anti-capitalist message, turning the case into both a crime story and a political spectacle. In the weeks that followed, recordings surfaced of Patty speaking in the group's rhetoric and denouncing her family, which only deepened the confusion for people watching from afar. It was the kind of twist that made the public feel like they were trying to solve a mystery in real time with no reliable narrator. Even before that night, there were details that later seemed eerie in hindsight. Patty told both SLA member Willie Wolfe and a prison psychiatrist that she dreamed of being kidnapped shortly before February 4th, 1974, a strange footnote that keeps popping up in retellings. From Heiress to Tania.
Greetings to the people. This is Tania. On April 15th, my comrades and I expropriated $10,660.02 from the Sunset branch of the Hibernia Bank. Casualties could have been avoided had the persons involved cooperated with the people's forces and kept out of the way until after our departure. I was positioned so that I could hold customers and bank personnel who were on the floor. My gun was loaded, and at no time did any of my comrades intentionally point their guns at me. Careful examination of the photographs, which were published, clearly shows this is true. Our action of April 15th forced the corporate state to help finance the revolution. As for my ex-fiancé, I don't care if I ever see him again. During the last few months, Stephen has shown himself to be a sexist, ageist pig. Not that this was a sudden change from the way he always was. For those people who still believe that I'm brainwashed or dead, I see no reason to further defend my position. Consciousness is terrifying to the ruling class, and they will do anything to discredit people who have realized that the only alternative to freedom is death, and that the only way we can free ourselves of this fascist dictatorship is by fighting, not with words, but with guns. I am a soldier in the people's army.
The turning point came when Patty appeared with the SLA during the April 1974 robbery of the Hibernia Bank in San Francisco, making her the first widely known kidnapped victim to participate in a bank robbery with her captors. She was seen with a weapon in surveillance images, and the country tried to square that picture with the idea of an abducted teenager. Her defense later argued she had been coerced and abused, a framework many people shorthand as Stockholm Syndrome, even though the label never ended the debate. The SLA's internal dynamics also mattered. Later reporting tied to the case describes founder Donald DeFries trying to recruit UC students by supplying them with automatic weapons at secret basement meetings in Oakland, which helps explain why the group felt unpredictable and dangerous. And while the public tends to remember one robbery image, the story sprawled into multiple crimes. During the kidnapping of a Los Angeles area teenager, Tom Matthews, he recalled, quote, "Patty was sitting in the back with me, and I kind of remember her almost patting me, comforting me because she'd gone through a similar experience, though much, much worse than what I'd gone through. She was being sympathetic towards me." Firefights, manhunts, and a Cliffside escape.
If anyone had any sympathy to give to Patty at any point along the last 2 months, that they should extend it to her now, because from the way I know Patty, she is sick, she's exhausted, and she's being humiliated at the hands of a group of people that are determined not to let her get out of this alive.
5 suspected members of the Symbionese Liberation Army are dead following the bloodiest and most massive gun battle in the history of Los Angeles. Hundreds of police and FBI agents surrounded this small house on East 54th Street in the south central area of the city. Shortly before 6 p.m., gunfire erupted. For more than an hour, thousands of rounds of automatic weapons and small gunfire were exchanged between police and the suspects inside the house. 6 tear gas assaults were made in an attempt to flush out the fugitives, until finally, houses on either side, as well as the pink wood and stucco fortress, caught fire. A fire believed to have been started by an exploding gas canister. Coming out. Some of the bodies were burned beyond recognition and awaited final positive identification following coroner's autopsies. It was an incredible, almost unbelievable ending to the most intensive manhunt of recent years. And yet, it was viewed as it happened by millions watching on national television.
The manhunt widened as the SLA spiraled into violence, reaching a peak on May 17, 1974, when Los Angeles police attacked an SLA safe house and 6 members died in what's often been described as the largest firefight on American soil. Patty was not inside that house, and the pursuit continued. Accounts gathered for Roger Rappaport's 2024 work on the case include a claim that a Weather Underground revolutionary tried to persuade the SLA to release Patty just hours before that deadly confrontation. There were also lesser-known episodes that show how chaotic life on the run could get. One reported incident says Patty and her partner, Stephen Solaya, were rescued from the bottom of a steep cliff above Thornton State Beach near San Francisco, after which she allegedly gave authorities fake identification and fled to avoid arrest. Meanwhile, her family was navigating pressure, fear, and headlines. Reporting on the case says that her father, Randolph "Randy" Hearst, pursued secret back-channel efforts involving incarcerated SLA figures, even while he refused to pay a multi-million-dollar ransom outright. Courtroom battles and the Stockholm debate.
Well, I cooperated with them because I had to cooperate with them. You know, if they want to sit there and explain, you see, this was, they were going to educate me because they felt that, you know, anyone they had kidnapped should be educated and be made to understand their beliefs, because they also said that there were hundreds of them and many other people had been kidnapped at the same time that night, and they were being held at other safe houses. So it was quite a while before I knew that I was the only one. You know, I was in this closet, so I was in the dark, also blindfolded, tied up, gagged. Then they got around to their sexual politicizing. So really it was just rape is what it was.
Okay. Did you actually fall for one of them in the end as a result of brainwashing, or did you just acquiesce on the basis that if I acquiesce, I'll get out of this alive?
Well, exactly. I mean, here is your... Because what they felt is that you should have sex with everyone because you should understand how the cell works. And of course, when you're, blindfolded and held in a closet and told you're going to be killed, you're going, oh yeah, great idea. Nobody's saying no to any of this because you don't dare.
Sure.
I think it's insulting to anyone who's ever been raped to suggest that could turn into a seduction and a love affair afterward. It's outrageous.
And it became part of the U.S. case against you.
It became part of the mythology of the SLA. It did, in fact, get used. Not just him, but that all of the members of the SLA were my best friends, and that kids just like me, and that of course I'd like them. It's really shocking the way the case was presented. I mean, no other people were prosecuted for that bank robbery except me. None of my kidnappers were charged or prosecuted.
I just hope everybody will remember that physically Patty is still a kidnapped victim. She was taken away against her will. And psychologically, she's a victim of thought control by terrorists.
Patty was arrested in 1975 after months on the run, and prosecutors treated her as a participant in armed robbery, kidnapping, and other crimes connected to the SLA's spree. At trial, her legal team, including F. Lee Bailey, argued she had been coerced and psychologically dominated, pointing to the idea that hostages can form survival bonds with captors and follow orders to stay alive. The jury convicted her of bank robbery, and she served about 22 months in prison before President Jimmy Carter commuted her sentence in 1979. Later, President Bill Clinton granted her a full pardon in 2001, a late chapter that many casual followers still did not realize happened. Even now, anniversary coverage stresses how stubborn the core mystery remains. Recent reporting notes that the public still splits on whether the 19-year-old art major was brainwashed or chose her path, and that Patty herself has largely stayed away from interviews in recent years. What Patty Hearst is doing now.
What was it like growing up with her?
Everyone always seems so taken aback by this answer, but it was normal. I grew up in a beautiful but modest home in Connecticut. I went to a local public school. I played after-school sports. My mom, baked cookies and dinner every night. I mean, she was just my mom.
Just regular old growing up?
I mean, granted, sometimes she did, go off and do John Waters movies, and I didn't know that wasn't normal, but yeah, she was my mom.
Normal is so relative.
Right.
After prison, Patty rebuilt her private life quickly. 2 months after her release, she married Bernard Lee Shaw, a former police officer who had been part of her security detail, and the couple had 2 daughters. She also shaped her own narrative publicly, including publishing a memoir, and she occasionally stepped into pop culture in unexpected ways through acting, including a cameo connected to John Waters' Cecil B. Demented. But the most consistent answer to what is she doing now is not Hollywood or politics. In recent decades, she's become closely associated with competitive dog showing, with multiple reports noting that her French bulldogs have earned major wins and attention at the Westminster Kennel Club Dog Show. She also appears in society and charity coverage, including events linked to Elton John's AIDS Foundation, which is about as far as you can get from the armed, paranoid world the SLA dragged her into in 1974. Now it's time to hear from you. When you look at Patty Hearst's life today, does it feel like a clean break from the SLA years? Or do you think the public will always pull her back into that old argument about what really happened?